Like many other fans of the life simulation genre, I've been looking forward to some of the new games that have been announced in the past couple of years. I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar by now with the big three that everyone is talking about: Paralive, Zinzoi, and Life by You. But there's another life simulation game that is coming out really soon, which hasn't garnered the attention I think it deserves, and that's Vivaland. If you're new here, hi, I'm Bibi, and on this channel I make Sims 2 videos. I've been a fan of the Sims franchise since the original game's release. Yes, I was a child that couldn't speak English yet, but I knew that I could trap my Sims neighbors into a pool and remove the ladder so I could grow my gravestone collection. Basically, I'm just your average Sims player. But Vivaland promises something different. In fact, the very first teaser on their channel boldly claims that they'll offer fans of the genre a fresh new gaming experience. Only time will tell if they can deliver on this ambitious promise, but a couple of months ago they released a demo of the game's build mode, so today I am going to give you my honest review on that. Now, some of you may be unfamiliar with Vivaland, so let me give you the TLDR. Vivaland is developed by Hi5 Interactive, an indie game development team that currently has 14 members, so it's not a huge studio. According to them, Vivaland is the first life simulator built with multiplayer in mind from the ground up. They were actually founded by the creator of the popular Sims 4 multiplayer mod, so it's no wonder that multiplayer is the main focus of this game. Apparently, every household in Vivaland can be controlled by up to 8 players who collaborate by building and living in a shared town. In the demo, players can visit each other's houses and build together, with the promise of being able to play in the same household in early access. I know this may appeal to a lot of players, but personally, I've never felt the need for a multiplayer life sim. In general, all of my favorite games are story-driven or sandbox single-player games. Plus, I don't really have any gamer friends, so I'm not really the target demographic here. But the developers have stated that the game can be enjoyed by solo players too, so that's good to hear. I don't know how populated the towns will be, but we haven't really seen enough live mode gameplay yet. The next thing you need to know about Vivaland is that it's another closed world experience, meaning to those who crave an open world environment similar to the worlds in The Sims 3, this is probably not what you're looking for. When I launched the demo and started a new town, the game immediately reminded me of The Sims 4 with its simple town view and limited lots, and that's not the last time I felt a really strong Sims 2 resemblance, more on that later. Okay, let's jump into the gameplay. When you load the Vivaland Dream House demo, you're greeted with 3 options: load, start, or create a town. I tinkered with the settings a bit. They were automatically set to Ultra and the game does look amazing. I mean, it's Unreal Engine 5, so yes, it's beautiful. But in general, the settings were very limited, which is disappointing if you're someone like me who likes to customize their gameplay experience. I created a new town, and after a quick loading screen, you get to see the town. So far, it's just this one environment, which looks super beautiful, but of course, I'd like to see more variety in terms of environment. The town view is unfortunately static, like it is in The Sims 4 as I said earlier. There are 8 buildable lots, you cannot change them or relocate them. To this day, I still firmly believe that The Sims 2 has the best HUD customization where you can do everything, and I've yet to see any game that is able to replicate that gaming experience. That's not a jab at Vivaland at all, I'm just saying that The Sims 2 did this the best 20 years ago, and any other game that has come since has yet to do that or better for the town creation to be remotely interesting to me. So yes, the town customization options are pretty limited to basically non-existent, but this is okay since it's a demo, and I hope that the final product will be able to deliver a bit more diversity. You have to claim which lot you want, and I later found out that even as a solo player you can only claim 1 lot per town. That's because of the whole multiplayer aspect that allows 8 people to play in one world, so when I wanted to build on a different lot, I had to start a whole new town. That's honestly very disappointing to me. If I am to play this game in the long run, I'd prefer if I could somehow set my mode to single player and build on all of the lots and move in as many characters as possible in one world. So that's my overview of the basic concept of Vivaland, and now let's take a look at the Dream House demo. I played it for a few hours and I'm going to give you guys my list of likes and dislikes that I gathered while playing this demo. This is my unfiltered first impression, and I might change my mind in the future because this game is still very much in development. I chose to build on this island with the lighthouse, and when I loaded a lot, the game started giving me tips on how to use the various building tools. I'll show you guys some footage of my speed build process while I talk to you guys about the different pros and cons on my list. So, let's start with the positives. I like the UI. It's clean, simple, and intuitive. I had no trouble browsing the different tools and categories, so it's overall really easy to navigate and find what you need. My only criticism is that some of the clutter items don't actually feel like they belong in the appropriate category. For example, there were 2 pairs of shoes that naturally I'd put by the entrance of the house, but they were in the bathroom clutter for some reason. But in general, I think the UI is pretty good. I also mostly ignored the pop-up suggestions because I wanted to see if it'll be easy to figure out the building without any tips, and it's really not super difficult. I read some reviews that said they found building very difficult and unintuitive, but even without reading the guides or watching any previews, I still managed to figure out how most things are done on my own, so I consider that a win. I also think that the environment looks absolutely gorgeous. The landscape is so beautiful, the objects and textures look really good and crisp, and I spent so much time zooming in to see how things look up close, and everything just looks chef's kiss, delightful. I especially love the plants, although there aren't that many options yet. In general, I think Vivaland has really good art direction, everything in the world looks consistent, nothing looks uncanny or mismatched, and from what I've seen of their character design, the simulated people in this game will look beautiful too. The next thing I liked is that there is a color wheel. It's simpler than the design tool in The Sims 3, but I actually prefer the simplicity to a certain extent. If they can add an additional pattern selection menu, that would be amazing. Most objects can be recolored, so even with the limited number of options, you can still customize a lot. You can also save your swatches and create matching sets pretty easily. Moving on, I think building and placing items off the grid is awesome in this game. You can build walls at whichever angle you want. You can also build curved walls and glass walls too. You can resize objects, make them smaller or larger, stack them on top of each other, or really zoom in there and shift things around however you want. You can easily move doors and windows off the grid too. I'm just unsure how gridless building will affect the usability of objects and the pathing of characters in live mode, but there's no way to test that yet. Another visual thing I loved is the daylight cycle in Vivaland. It's super pretty and I enjoyed looking at my buildings in different light settings. My only criticism here is that the night is very bright. I feel like it needs to be just a little bit darker. Lastly, the performance on my gaming laptop was really good, very smooth. I experienced no hiccups, no random frame rate drops or rendering issues. Overall, the demo was really stable in terms of performance. However, I did experience one crash. I've clocked about 5 hours of gameplay so far, so one crash is not a lot. But many of the negative Steam reviews that I read mentioned that they can't even run the game and it crashes all the time. Maybe I got lucky, maybe they patched some problems since the demo was released, but the game performs almost perfectly on my computer. After all, this is still just a demo for a game that will be out in early access, not even a full release. So all things considered, I think it works as expected so far. So those are some of the things that I enjoyed and left a good impression on me. Now let's move on to some of the negatives I experienced. First of all, the camera controls. Oh my god, is this bad? You have to hold the right mouse button and rotate the camera, which I would prefer to do that with the scroller of my mouse. While I was building on the lighthouse lot, I wanted to get a screenshot with the lighthouse in frame, but I couldn't because of the limited camera angle. I couldn't zoom in anymore and I could never look at the whole thing. Like I'm living next to this cool thing and I can never properly see it. What the heck? And while I was trying to take good footage of my furnished interiors, there was no way to put down the walls or zoom out for a more of a fisheye lens look that would properly capture the entire room. I also didn't find a way to switch to a complete top-down look, which made placing ceiling lamps in particular very annoying. They don't snap to a tile on the floor, but instead snap to the ceiling, and you can never properly center a ceiling lamp however you like. My other main personal issue is that there are no hotkeys for any of the tools or menus. At least I didn't see any tooltips indicating that there are hotkeys, nor did I see a keyboard customization in the settings menu, and this drove me insane! This is also really annoying because tools would often deselect, so you have to click on them again and again to use them. I extensively use hotkeys when playing all games, including The Sims, where I basically only use my keyboard to switch between all of the different UI tabs and functions. It's super fast and much easier than constantly pointing and clicking on whatever tool I want to use. I find that only allowing point-and-click navigation to be very slow and clunky for experienced players, so to me adding hotkeys is an absolute must that should be implemented. Moving on, now, even though the environment is pretty, I was super distracted by the fact that the grass, water, and plants constantly move. I'm not even kidding, like they are always waving around in the wind. I'm not sure if that's really necessary, especially the grass and water were so dynamic. Like, why is it going so crazy? I don't know, maybe it's my goldfish brain, but I found that very visually intrusive. The next visual thing that bugged me is that the interior lighting makes no sense. If you could even say that there's such a thing as interior lighting, for some reason, even when you build closed rooms and add a roof, the interiors look like they're still outside. They look like they're lit from the sun, which shouldn't be able to reach them from that angle because they have a second floor or a roof or whatever. It's not ugly, it's just weird and illogical. Like, you'll have a completely closed room, but the walls are casting shadows like the sun is shining on them, and the trees that are outside are casting shadows inside too. I'm pretty sure that this is something that will be fixed though, because it's just really nonsensical. Okay, next thing is the foundation tool. It is just so buggy. I don't know what happened, but at one point I accidentally deleted my entire foundation and had to start over. There also isn't really a separate foundation tool. You have to build walls first, and then convert those walls into a foundation, and then build new walls on top of that again. And I think that's just such a strange choice. It just makes your building process that much slower. There weren't that many options for customizing foundations either. There are no floor trims or anything like that, and in general they were just kinda meh. Another way this game reminded me of The Sims 4, and not in a good way, is the way that you paint walls and floors. Maybe I just couldn't figure it out, but there doesn't seem to be a way to apply a single piece of wallpaper or a single floor tile. You only paint wall by wall and room by room by default. So when I wanted to build a combined living space with a kitchenette, I couldn't place tiles under the kitchen area. Perhaps you can first surround your kitchen with walls, put down tiles, and then demolish the walls, but that's just so annoying and I can't imagine doing this every single time I want to do that. To me, this is something that needs to be fixed. You should be able to paint individual walls and floor tiles. Again, applying wallpaper and flooring like in The Sims 2 is still the best in my opinion. You get to customize and do whatever you want. Basically, the more freedom you give to the player, the better the game is. Another thing I disliked is resizing the roof and the stairs. It's just very unintuitive. You have to place them down first and then click on them with the right mouse button, and I didn't realize that until I read a tooltip about it. I just don't understand why sizing options don't pop up immediately after you place a roof down, or by clicking them with the left mouse button, so I don't know, it's just strange to me and feels wrong somehow. There's also a column tool, but I thought it was pretty disappointing. You can't really place columns wherever you want. I wanted to place some basic beams on the exterior corners of my modern build, but first of all of the columns were too ornate for a more sleek and clean modern build, and two, they couldn't properly snap to the corners of the house anyway, so I just gave up on them altogether. You also can't place them on fences to create a patio with a roof, for instance, so what is the point of columns really? Overall, there are random limitations when it comes to this tool and I just don't understand, so I think it needs some more work. The next thing that disappointed me is that there are no terrain paint options. I wanted to add some dirt underneath some of the plants I placed in the garden, and I found out that there is no such thing that exists yet. There is a path tool, which is surprisingly pretty cool, but it doesn't really serve the purpose of what I want. There is really no way to create any variation on the terrain colors, so I definitely think that they should add that feature. And speaking of terrain, there aren't any terrain manipulation tools, so basically you're always building on a completely flat surface. The last thing that bugged me is that the doors and windows are directional, but you cannot flip them with your mouse or keyboard. No. Instead, you have to rotate the entire direction of the camera that you're looking at, which means you're dealing with the clunky controls yet again, and just entirely rotate your point of view so you can place the window or the door in the direction that you want. That's kinda goofy, and I think they should look at how it was done in the Sims franchise or figure out some other way to easily flip which direction a door or window faces. So this is my list. These are my initial thoughts about Vivaland's build demo. There are definitely pros and cons. I came into this demo without any expectations. I wanted to give you guys my completely unfiltered review, so I went in absolutely unspoiled, and honestly, I found it kinda charming. So what is my final verdict? Is this demo any good? Actually, yes. Despite the negatives I mentioned, I had fun building in Vivaland and then went back to build again. After getting the hang of the different tools, it was really enjoyable, and oh, the music of this game is really good. I didn't mention this, but the music was really pleasing to listen to. But anyways, I built a somewhat modern-ish house. I just winged it and wanted to see what the game has to offer. Then I created a more traditional looking build on the lakeside location and the environment captivated me again. There were also some objects around the lot that made me wonder if those would be usable, if your characters would be able to walk down the beach or go swimming in the lake. The problem with Vivaland so far is that there's really nothing revolutionary that this game has to offer, I mean other than the multiplayer aspect I suppose. We're talking in comparison to The Sims 4 here because that is the most recent big representation of the life sim genre. Aesthetically, I think that Vivaland looks much better than The Sims 4, and don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely not a Sims 4 hater, but build mode is the strongest gameplay element of The Sims 4, so is this game better than that? No, even though some aspects of Vivaland's building features are very interesting and ambitious, but you have to understand that The Sims 4 has been out for what, almost 10 years now? Wow, yikes. Yes, it's an old game now and it was absolutely trash as a base game release back in the day. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. EA has had quite a lot of time to patch in new features and functionalities. Plus, I played The Sims 4 with all DLCs, so it's not like it's lacking in options. If you have $1,000 to spare, or don't mind role-playing Captain Hook, that is, if you know what I mean. So I can't judge Vivaland Dream House demo too much just yet. I think it's a pretty interesting foundation for what can potentially be a very fun life simulation game. Do I recommend the demo? Yes, I actually do. It's a free game and we haven't had a proper free demo for any other life sim yet. Yes, there aren't too many choices to play with right now, but you can still get a couple of hours of fun gameplay out of this demo at no cost. Even though you might experience some bugs or frustrating building mechanics, but considering it's a free demo for an early access game, it gets a thumbs up from me. However, we have to wait and see more about the live mode gameplay before I can say if this game is worth playing altogether. I know a lot of us are itching for a great new Sims competitor, and we are so blessed that there are a lot of options on the horizon that we can anticipate. From what I read on the official Vivaland website, early access will feature only the adult life stage, with additional life stages coming later on down the line. There are only residential lots so far, and the info about community locations was kind of vague, so who knows when those are coming. The game is also going to be pretty tame, as far as I can tell, without more mature or edgy gameplay elements, so nothing explicitly naughty. There is more info out there, but if you are really interested in this game, I suggest reading through their FAQ page to find out more details. Early access is expected to come out in the third quarter of 2024, which is pretty soon. We'll have to wait and see if they'll deliver in this time frame or will delay the release, much like some other games that keep getting postponed. Personally, I'm excited to try out the live mode, and I'll definitely try out the early access when it comes out. I think some of the negative reviews on Steam are a little bit too harsh because this is a demo of an unfinished game, and of course there are going to be bugs. In general, it seems like a huge portion of the simming community doesn't entirely understand the concept of early access. Most of my issues with the Dreamhouse demo are things that I believe can be fixed. It's not like there's a huge problem with the game's fundamental mechanics, not that I can tell so far, at least when it comes to building. My biggest disappointment is probably the very small worlds with no customization options and limited building space. But again, that's pretty much exactly like The Sims 4, and I'm whining because I'm a spoiled Sims 2 girly and I'm used to building custom hoods and placing lots wherever I want. So yes, these are my thoughts on Vivaland so far. Let me know what you guys think about Vivaland. Have you tried the demo? Are you interested in this game in general, or are you looking forward to another life simulation game? I'll keep an eye out on this game and all the rest that are coming, but that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to watch more content like this, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!